So this is basically just me ranting. Do that a lot. Just wandering around the cemetery, right? I love cemeteries. My wife thinks I'm bonkers. I love cemeteries for some reason. Like, look at all these different headstones, okay? And all different shapes and sizes. I mean, the money some of these must have cost back in the 1850s, whatever. I mean, they're all into it then, weren't they? You know, the Victorians, they're all got a big fascination with death and reincarnation. I mean, look at that. That must have been incredible in its day. But yes, I'm just having a wander around. There's quite a few interesting ones in here. There's a guy called Willie Hall. I've done a different video for Willie Hall. He was a footballer in the 30s, played for Tottenham Hotspur, Derby County. Every year in the town where he lived and died, they have a Willie Hall Memorial Cup. Okay, now Willie Hall was a footballer, did 10 internationals, who won against Ireland in the 30s. He scored 5 goals in a 30-minute period, each side of half time, but in 30 minutes play, he actually scored 5 goals. And he scored 3 in 4 minutes. That's why I love cemeteries. He scored 3 in 4 minutes in a 4-minute period. In 1946, he had his legs amputated due to illness. He died in 1967, but he still holds the record at the minute for the fastest international hat-trick. That still stands to this day, over 50 years later. This guy, that's why I love cemeteries. This guy here, Sapper W. Pride, 11th of September 1918. Sad story about Mr. Pride. Obviously a sapper in the Royal Engineers. Can't remember how old he was when he died. I didn't know this story. And basically what happened was he suffered from, well, they call it post-traumatic stress now, shell shock, whatever you want to call it. And basically wasn't very well. So I'm just looking. I did know the story about French as well. Anyway, so basically, I don't know if he didn't desert. This one here, look at this guy, age 16. Notts Derby Regiment, 15th of January 1915, age 16, L. Sibsey, age 16. 16-year-olds now can't decide what gender they are, who sacrificed his life for king and country. So, First World War, that one, Sibsey. So, yeah, anyway, Pride, as I was saying, over there, he suffered what we now call post-traumatic stress. They called it shell shock in the day, didn't they? And basically, he committed suicide. And as a result, he wasn't named on the war memorial, even though technically, really, he was a victim of the war. I'm just showing you some more, right? He was a victim of the war, in a way, because obviously, mentally scarred. They call it like mental illness and stuff now, wouldn't they? And he killed himself, so they won't put him on the war memorial. The war memorial's through that archway a bit further down. Now, what happened was, there's a big thing where they said, well, basically, you know, he's got PTSD, it wasn't his fault. He was obviously a victim of the war because it injured him, screwed his head up. And big campaign, and now it's actually, his name is on the war memorial. So when you read the war memorial, it's obviously all in alphabetical order, and then you get to the end, and his name is at the very end, and that's because it later went on after the war. It was quite recently. See, I hate to see this. Look at this. That's horrible, isn't it? Look at that. That's just tragic. Poor baby. When you've got kids, you'll understand. Here's another interesting one. I love cemeteries. I just love them. 40,000 people buried here. Here we go. Air Vice Marshal Harry Gill, CB, OBE, RAF retired. Born 30th of October 1922. Died 20th of January 2008. Really, really interesting story about him. He flew a mosquito through between the towers, I want to say, of Cologne Cathedral. Quite an interesting man. There's a few more around here. These are really, really fascinating. Some really fascinating stories. If you're not into this, feel free to turn off, okay? I'm just going to show you a few more around here. I just kind of come across. There's a few cleaned here. I cleaned these before because these were like illegible. And obviously nobody looked after them, so I thought, you know, why not? I'm in the area. So, Royal Engineers. This one here, a loving memory. Harry Clark, late bandsman, 1st Rifle Brigade, served through the South African War. Oh, sorry, born February 17th, 1866, died April 12th, 1903. It says here, resting in hope. So that's an interesting one. So that's another one that I look after. I did know the story of Pratt. I can't remember off the top of my head. I clean too many graves. I can't keep track. Okay, so this is another one that I look after. Have looked after. Right. In loving memory of Alex Knight, who died 10th of December 1903, aged 47 years. Also Emma Eleanor Knight, wife of the above, who died 5th of December 1917. Okay. This is interesting. I cleaned this, you can't read this before. In affectionate remembrance of Private E.A. Knight, 1st Notts Sherwood Rangers Yeomanry, died in Palestine, October the 18th, 1918, aged 26 years. Oh, buried in, I can't read that, I did know that because I've videoed this before, buried elsewhere, but basically it's buried elsewhere, but it's got a footstone there, so it's always remembered here. And his parents, there's a few other interesting ones here. I just kind of waffle, you have to bear with me, I'm a waffler. Let me find, where's this cross? There's a cross somewhere, a wooden cross. I'll try and see if I can find it. I'll know it when I see it. As you can tell, I spend far too many hours in cemeteries with dead people. But the living just drive you bonkers, honestly. They really do. There's some really interesting ones. I'm going to try and find this. Here it is. See if you can still read it. Oh. Erected by his mother to the dear memory of Hassel Ernest Robinson, 7th West Kent Regiment, who was killed in Troneswood, France, July 13th, 1916, aged 21, grandson of James Scott Osborne. I believe this is wood from the battlefield. I might be wrong, but I'm sure it is. There's another one in here. It's exactly the same, where the wood's actually from where it was originally buried. They brought him back, but they actually brought the wooden cross back as well. I just love cemeteries. They're just fascinating things. It's really fascinating. Some really interesting people in here. So there is 40,000 altogether. And in something or other, early 19th century, a plane crashed. You can see just where the house is through there, basically. A plane crashed somewhere on the cemetery. I'm trying to find out where. I can't find out where. What happened was he lost control. He crashed, and what he did, he obviously hit the ground, and he jumped. Okay, so this bloke jumped out of his plane as it was crashing, but it still killed him. But yeah, there's some really interesting people in here. Wherever you go, there's something like 570 Commonwealth War graves in here altogether. I'll show this other wooden one as well. Yeah, I think there's 570 odd. The first one was September 1914. I'll show you that in a minute. He was the first Commonwealth War one in here. Yeah, if you Google this bloke, so here we go. Vice Marshal Harry Gill, CBOBARF retired. If you Google him, it does come up, mosquito pilot. So yeah, there's a lot here, but there's some really interesting stories. A lot of military ones. They're going back to, say, 1914. The first one, September 1914, is the first one that went in here. And they've been kind of going in ever since. There is a designated bit for the Commonwealth War Graves Commission that I'll show you in a minute. And there are something like 397 poles in there? Something like that. But yeah, I've already shown you the grave of a 16-year-old from 1915 in the Commonwealth War bit. I'll get to that in a minute. I'm kind of making way. It's quite a way. I don't make a way down there. But yeah, so in 1915, he died at age 16. There's another guy that's buried in the Commonwealth War bit. He was an air cadet. He died in an air crash. They did an air test on an aircraft, and he was in it. It crashed. He was one of 2 air cadets that actually died. He also was only 16. There's some people here from a local factory, a ball bearing factory, used to make the bearings for the engines, and a Luftwaffe plane flew up, basically followed the railway line from London, right into the factory, and it bombed the factory. Just trying to find this other one. Yeah, and it bombed the factory and killed, 30 odd people. 7th March 1941 that was, I know that date. And it killed a lot of people. These are all civilians, and a lot of them are buried in here. One's buried elsewhere. There's one lady that was never found. This is what I was looking for. Ooh. In loving memory of our darling son, Domenico de Saccarnio, call him Dom, sorry I'm not very good at foreign, died 5th of December 1919, aged 31, dispatch rider with someone in Egypt and signals in Palestine and Syria. So that, I believe that is from where he died. Again, I'm sure that's the second one that's done that. So yeah, this, as I was saying, sorry, I get distracted. So this 16-year-old lad died in a plane crash, along with a few other crew and another 16-year-old who's buried elsewhere. So there are a couple of 16-year-olds buried in here. There's somebody else buried in here, and he lied about his age. Here's the former priest, look. Quite impressive one. Some of these are really impressive. But yeah, I'll go to the Commonwealth War bit. I'll be wandering on the way as well. I'll just waffling. There's another one here. This is World War One. This is quite a sad story. I spent too much time in sandwiches, you can tell. So this is quite a sad story. 2 brothers, 2 different regiments, died a year almost to the day apart. They're buried here together. Here we go. The Day brothers. There we go. So Private JT Day, not Sodai Regiment, 21st of February 1917. His brother, Leicester Regiment, A Day, 13th of February 1916. So 8 days apart, a year apart. Could you imagine being a parent of that? That must be awful. The mother, almost at the anniversary, and then you're told your other son dies. So I'm just going to do a quick wander. I will sort of waffle as I go along when I find other graves that are quite interesting. So I did know the story quite a few, but then I'm just like, forget loads. I'm getting old. Nearly getting older to forget everything. I can remember things from like years and years ago, but when I was a kid. I can remember things when I was a baby. My wife don't believe me. I can remember when I was in a pram. I remember the wallpaper in my mum and dad's house. You don't believe that, but I can. But then I put my car keys down, like wherever I left my car keys. Is that an age thing? I don't know. Here's another one. D. Stewart, leading aircraft member Royal Navy, HMS Daedalus, 28th of October 1941, age 22. What greater love can a man give his country than his life? It says on there as well, Fleet Air Arm. So his name must be Donald then, leading aircraft Donald Stewart, Fleet Air Arm. There we go. So I'll just do a few more while I'm here. I just love wandering around cemetery. I'm always coming across people and you suddenly see something like, I don't know, an MB or something, you think, oh, that's interesting, and then I go back and research it. This is quite a common name around here, Briggs Price. It's a lot, it's like a family, I'm assuming somebody called Briggs and somebody Price married. Yeah, there's another one, Tony Briggs Price. There's loads, there's still like a massive family at the minute. Yeah, there's still like a massive local family. I own a lot of businesses and stuff like that, like car repair things, and one owns like a big motorhome company, which is doing really well actually. So I'm just going to show you a few more. Where it is, I'll show you this one while I'm here. So this, I was saying about the war. Is it this one? I think it's Sibsey. Sure it's Sibsey. I might be wrong. No, it's Beale. Beale. Sibsey's the 16-year-old. Right. E.P. Beale, Sherwood Foresters, 7th March 1941. Very interesting story. 7th March 41, as I say, this I was telling you that before. This local factory got bombed. Maple Bearings. It's only about, I don't know, a mile from here, something like that. Still exists today. It's now called NSK, and they bombed the factory. About 40 people died, all civilians that just worked in the factory. The Germans came along and bombed it just after lunchtime. He, I do believe, was on the roof of the building manning an anti-aircraft gun when he died. I'm going to show you now the first person that was buried in here. So this was September. I want to say Baker. I'm sure it's called Baker. So just remember that, 7th of March 41. So Baker was the first one buried in here. The first war grave. Here we go. Oh, R.J. Baker, Notts and Derby Regiment, 28th of September 1914, age 22. So this is the first one, first war grave in here. Now there's like 500 odd. Just going to show you some more while I'm here. So, obviously I said about 7th of March 41. Big day, they called it Black Friday. Okay, still quite talked about today. There's something in the paper. Every year there's still something in the paper after all this time. But I'm just going to show you. So this, is this one of them? Yeah, here we go. Edna May Cottam died 7th of May 1941, aged 19 years. You can't read that very well, but I can read that. There's another one here. This was the same. This is in the same bombing raid. William Patwood died 7th of March 1941. So that was also one of them. This grave here, this is a family plot. But one of these, because I dug all this edging out, one of these is also, just trying to get out of it, just try and show you. Here we go. So he died, I don't know if you can see that, let me just, right, let me just read that to you. Memory of Reginald Wisner, who died through enemy action 8th of March 1941. So he survived the bombing raid, died the day after. This one, I'm sure this one is as well. I'm sure that one is. That's one of them as well. There's one more, I can never find it. But yeah, so basically the Germans bombed this factory and killed all these people. There's a girl called Esther Varney. There's a street actually in Newark named after her called Esther Varney Place. Interesting thing about Esther Varney, her and a girl were running, sorry I'm walking with my camera, not very professional, you may have noticed, was running to get away. Okay, they're running to the bomb shelter when the plane hit, and this girl with her was running with her, and this bloke was between two buildings, and as the girl run past, he grabbed her and dragged her into the gap. He said, "Where are you going?" She's like, "I'm the bomb shelter, the bomb shelter." He said, "You'd never make it." Esther Varney immediately ran in the bomb shelter in front of him, took a direct hit, and it killed her. They never found her body. All they found was one shoe. This is him, the home guard. So that other one I showed you, Beale, killed in the bomb raid. This is the guy I thought. Volunteer J.H. Green, 11th Nottinghamshire Battalion, home guard, 7th of March 1941, age 55. He's the guy that was on top of the building when this raid took place. So yeah, Esther Varney was never found. I'll show you the rest of them in a minute. Esther Varney was never found, and all they found was one of her shoes. And there's now a street named after her, Esther Varney Place. And people that work at the factory claim to take a shortcut through part of it that was there in the war, and seen like a glow of a woman working at a machine, and completely freaked out, as you would. So that's the story of them. I'll show you the rest of them while I'm here. There's a few more I want to show. I could be here in all day. Honestly, I could be here all day. But there's one that's buried in another cemetery. I'll show you this in a minute. That's the Commonwealth War Graves bit. Loads of interesting people in there. So, Arthur Worrell, killed by enemy action 7th of March 41, aged 31 years. Wilfred Evelyn Andrew, killed by enemy action 7th of March 1941, aged 39 years. Thomas McCallum Hardy, killed by enemy action, 26. Gladys Cummins, killed by enemy action, aged 21. Edwin Martin, killed by enemy action 7th of March 41, aged 46. George Harold Henry Adams, killed by enemy action 7th of March 1941. So all these guys and girls were all killed in the same raid as those others. Local ball bearing fracture, it's still there to this day. Another one, Flight Lieutenant Cooler, MM, military medal. There's lots of interesting ones. Honestly, I could be here all day. Our boy was senseless. There's a lot of like poles and stuff buried here, as you can see. These are obviously after the war. He was a pilot. Fuller, I did know the story of Fuller. H.A. Fuller, I did know that story. HMS Gamecock, look, aged 18 years. HMS Gamecock, aged 19 years. Here's another one. Tansy, AFC, Air Force Cross, died 1955. Another one here. I could be here all day, honestly. Desmond Leonard Parks, REME, Royal Electrical Mechanical Engineers. E.D. Simpson, Royal Air Force, 1958. There's loads, honestly. I could go on for ages. See, these are Polish ones. Can't read Polish. This one, though. This one. Nowiski, I want to say. There is a Nowiski on that back wall that I'll show you in a minute. She was Home Army Resistance, AK, Polish Resistance. She's buried with her husband, who has a Virtue Militari, which is the VM, Polish equivalent to the Victoria Cross. Also has the KW, Polish Cross of Valour. Here's another interesting one, look. Joseph Strickland, formerly Józef Strykarski, Lieutenant of the 1st Polish Armoured Division Hussars, born 19th of September 1920 in Liège, Belgium, died 23rd of March 1979 in Old Bilsthorpe Knott. No, I didn't know his story as well, I'm sorry, you must forgive me. You might be able to Google these. There's so many that I knew and know, and I just get confused because I'm old and fat and forgetful. Right, I'm going to show you these guys. Right, Lipinski, okay, died 1958, okay, age 37. Worked allegedly for the CIA. Can't find a lot about him. However, I call this guy Izzy because I can't pronounce that. I don't know if you can see that. Right, he fought a good fight, he kept the faith, he finished the course, and he died, Jan Izzy, I call him, died with Józef Jeka, okay, 1958. This is him, Virtuti Militari VM, Polish equivalent of Victoria Cross. I don't even know what it is. DFM as well. So basically, this guy here was the former officer commander in 306 Squadron, Polish Squadron. He also was the first Pole to fly at Mach 2 in a U-2 spy plane. He actually died fighting against the communists in 1958 in a B-25. These two took off together. The engine power went out on one engine, turned inverted, slammed into the ground, and it killed them both. They're buried here. Jeka, I don't know if you've seen the film Firefox, where Clint Eastwood is being trained to steal a MiG. This guy was being trained to steal a MiG-15 from the communists, and basically what happened was, with Jeka, somebody beat him to it. They defected to America with a MiG-15, got away with it, and claimed asylum and got it. This is interesting. This is the Airbridge Memorial. See, I could be here all day. So this is Warsaw Airbridge Memorial. I'll tell you a little bit about this. So it says here, Warsaw Airbridge Memorial, in tribute to 250 airmen of Britain and the Commonwealth and Poland who sacrificed their young lives in a desperate attempt to fly from distant RF bases in Italy with essential supplies for the front line city of Warsaw during the 1944 uprising. I'm just going to remove this. Erected in 1989 by the founders of the Airbridge Association, okay? On the anniversary, all this is full. There's Polish soldiers, there's veterans. It's absolutely fascinating. And the only reason that is here is because a man called Jim Orton. Jim Orton, absolutely incredible man. Okay, I look after his grave, right? you go, MBE. This man is so highly respected in Poland. There's a little aircraft there, memorial to him. Look, can you see? This is one of the graves I look after. So it's weird because his wife's obviously buried here. He was buried after, but it was filled in. His name was filled in and stuff. Obviously not the day of death because he wasn't dead, but it was filled in, but he wasn't dead. So they added the 2020 later. He died in January 2020. They added that later, but he wanted to make sure it was all right when he went. So he had it done first, so you could actually see him on the anniversary at this memorial, and then you could look at his grave, but he wasn't dead. It's a little bit weird, that. It's a really interesting story about Jim. Ex-RAF navigator bomber, husband of Peggy, member of the Order of the British Empire, MBE, French Legion of Honour, Polish Gold Order of Merit, Crosses of Valour, Warsaw Uprising and AK, Home Army, Czech Gold Medal for Merit and Military Cross, Honorary Czechoslovakian Military Pilot, okay? Deblin Attendance Diploma, founder of the Warsaw Airbridge Memorial, which I say is that memorial there. Now Jim, I was fortunate enough to meet him. I'll just read this to you in case you can't read it. That's what he looks like. Look at that. Good looking bloke, wasn't he? Incredible. Incredible man. Born 21st of April 1924, member of the Royal Air Force during World War II. He flew on 37 operations, which is a record in itself, really. Not many people survive 30. With 178 Squadron based in Italy, he took part in the bombing of oil refineries and dropped SOE agents and supplies behind enemy lines. During the Warsaw Uprising, he dropped containers of weapons, ammunition and medical supplies to support the Polish Home Army during their fight for freedom. Most famously, on the night of 13th and 14th of August 1944, Jim and the crew of Liberator Kilo Golf 873 spent 45 minutes circling burning Warsaw whilst under heavy enemy fire until certain their supplies would fall into the Polish hands. Post-war, Jim was founder of the Warsaw Airbridge Charity, and he died at the nearby monument. He was one of Britain's most highly decorated wartime veterans with 20 medals from 7 different countries. He died on the 18th of January 2020 in Newark on Trent. He actually died in my friend's arms. My friend was his carer till the end. So, like it says here, about 45 minutes circling burning Warsaw whilst under heavy enemy fire, certain their supplies would fall into the right hands. They had capsules with different coloured ends, so you knew what was medical supplies, what was food, what was ammunition, and he circled for 45 minutes at 200 feet under constant enemy fire to make sure the supplies landed in the right place. He got shot to pieces, absolutely shot to pieces, and survived it, was left disabled as a result of that raid. But he would not stop until he knew he dropped the supplies in the right place. That is bravery, and that is why I and a friend erected this. There's a few around here, I'll show you some more in a minute. But that's Jim's story, and this is so everybody will always remember him. So we put this up there, courtesy of those guys and these guys. Look on that website, you'll find Jim's story. So basically, I don't mind confessing to that, I put that there, and I'm proud I did that, because this man, Jim Orton, absolutely incredible. There's another one of those I'm going to show you over here. I kind of flip because it's a bit, this temperature's a bit all over. So I'm just going to show you another one. Right, so this guy, J.S. Stewart, DFM, Distinguished Flying Medal. He was also a guy that dropped SOE agents in a Halifax, I think he did, out of Thamesford. I've been to Thamesford. That's where Violet Zarbo and all those ladies that never came it back, the George Cross recipients, they were from. That's where they took off from. So here he is, J.S. Matthews, John Stuart Matthews, DFM. Okay, Royal Air Force. He was born in 1921, died in 1945. 28th of May, just after the war. This is another one of my boys, as I call them, because I tend to look after them. Not as much time, I don't have as much time as I used to. So this is his story, okay? Another one, look at him. This is what I love. I put this one up as well, I don't care about admitting it. Right, this is what I love. You can see, it's not just a bit of thing, that's what he looked like. You can see, it's amazing, isn't it? John Stuart Matthews, 73 Appleton Gate, Newark, was the recipient of Distinguished Flying Medal, which honours exceptional valour, courage and devotion to duty while on flying in operations. He received the award aged 22 on the 8th August the 4th, 1943. He was a keen sportsman, represented Magnus Grammar School in the rugby pitch and also played cricket for the school team. After leaving school, he became a postman at Newark Post Office before volunteering for the RAF in 41. He served as a navigator with 138 Special Duty Squadron, flying on Halifax aircraft. He flew on 30 missions into France, Holland and Belgium within just 3 months, dropping secret agents and supplies to resistance units. The citation for his DFM read, throughout he displayed an exceptionally high standard of navigation and his efforts have been attended by much success. He was also presented with gold cufflinks from the Newark Post Office in appreciation of the honour he had brought them by being the first member of staff to win a distinction in the war. In February 44 he relinquished the commission on the grounds of ill health but retained the rank. 50 months later and just a few weeks after VE Day he died in Southfield Nursing Home, Nottingham from tuberculosis. What a tragic end to a man who was absolutely amazing. I'm going to show you another one here. Sorry, I could be here all day. I know, sorry. These are 2 guys, both flew mosquitoes in the war, okay? Here's one, Tank Regiment, my old regiment, or Royal Armour Corps, Royal Tank Regiment, Royal Armour Corps. Don't know his story, I'm sure I can find it out. Anyway, so these are the brothers, the Bryan brothers, okay? Flight Sergeant C.C. Bryan, Navigator, Royal Air Force, 16th of April 1946, age 22, and Albert William Bryan, 25th of the 9th, 1923 to 26th of the 5th, 2009. Reunited with your beloved twin brother after 63 years. Rest in peace. So basically, these guys were twins, both navigators in mosquitoes. C.C. Bryan, Cyril, died in an air crash in 1946. His brother obviously survived, died in 2009, and he's now buried with him. So the brothers that were born together now rest together. And they're both navigators in mosquitoes in the war. And one survived and one didn't. That's just look at the draw, I suppose. Right, I'm going to show you a few more. Feel free to turn this off. I do just walk around and waffle quite a lot. It's just some of these stories, like people walk past and you don't know, right? People just walk past and they haven't got a clue. Right, they really haven't got a clue about these people. I'm going to go over here in a minute. There's a couple of drunks you can hear. Right, so we'll see how that plays out. I'll share the story of some of these. So, that's the Airbridge Memorial. It goes right down, the cemetery is quite big. 40,000 graves in here. Well, more than 40,000, 40,000 at the last count. So today's August the 1st, anniversary of the Warsaw Uprising. Last year on August the 1st, me and the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor put a flag up here, and a friend put a flag up there for the Warsaw Uprising. They've not done it this year. I came down this year just to pay my respects. So this is where a bit of Polish bomber squadron in the war. It tells you a little bit about it. I'm just going to zoom in really quick. You might have to pause it. Okay, just go along, go along, go along, go along. So it's on about 397 Polish graves, most of which are Polish aircrew. Most are based in Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire. The memorial cross was erected in 1941 by this guy. His grave is one of these 3 in front of the cross. I'll show you in a minute. I'm not going to pronounce it. On July 16th, 1943, following his tragic death, General Sikorski was laid to rest in a vault built by Polish sappers at the foot of the cross. His remains were repatriated to Poland in 1993. I remember that big thing when it happened. Obviously, the Airbridge Memorial honours the British and Polish that flew special duty missions from Italy, dropping weapons, ammunition and medical supplies to Nazi-occupied Warsaw, Poland during the 1944 uprising. And that, obviously the memorial, and there, you see, is Jim's grave. He was responsible for it. So, this was General Sikorski's grave, obviously in the war. That was the funeral procession when it all happened. It was obviously a big event. But there is quite a lot of Polish history around here. So these are all like the squadrons. This is Scampton, Hemswell Cliff. That is going to be, not Brattleby, what's it called? Ingham. That'll be RAF Ingham. Oh, here you go. It says here, look. Ingham, Hemswell, Foldingworth, Dunholm Lodge, Swinderby, Newark Cemetery. It's obviously where we are. Besides these war graves, there are also many graves of former Polish soldiers and airmen from World War II who died, sometimes long after the war, of natural causes. These graves are situated near the plot. Now, those graves, I'll just show you. So that bloke I was telling you about, whose name I can't pronounce, okay, he's buried here. So this is General Sikorski. This is where General Sikorski was buried. That needs cleaning. I might have to pop up and do that. So that's where he was buried. You might have to pause this. In a big vault, in a lead-lined coffin, and it's my understanding that he said he didn't want to be buried in Poland until it was free, and obviously after 93 it was free, So General, I can't remember, I do know his name. He had him sent back to Poland, and that's where he is now interred, in the cathedral in Krakow. So this says here, I don't know if you can read this: in memory of the fallen Polish airmen, I fought a good fight, I finished my course, I've kept the faith. It's in English and Polish, obviously. So that guy here, who's responsible for Sikorsky being buried here, is this guy. Quite a legend in his own right. I'm just going to zoom in so you can read his name. Just let it focus a second. There you go. So he's one of the three. This is the second one. Okay, another president, and this is the third one. Now this president, Ostrowski, Stanislav Ostrowski, he's the uncle of this guy here. Okay, so this guy here, Adam Ostrowski, was a Spitfire pilot. He didn't die that long ago. I was lucky enough to spend time with his son and daughter-in-law not long ago. I'll just show you. Adam, not going to pronounce his other name, Ostrowski, pilot 317 Squadron, I presume that means. Don't know what that means. His wife, Marie Louise, I believe she was Polish resistance. Okay, I'm sure she was Polish resistance. He survived a year in a prisoner of war camp in Siberia. And I did know the story quite a few. I know the story quite a few of these. It just kind of escapes me. But there's some, obviously, New Zealand that's so far away. So these ones, this is New Zealand Air Force as well, look, Bradley. So these ones are like Commonwealths. They're like your New Zealanders, your Australians, your British. These ones are your Polish ones, you know, with the thing. I did know the story of quite a few of these. If you look on my other YouTube bits, they are on there. I'm going to find the first man that was buried in this new bit. 397 Poles in here. I'm going to find the new bit. There's some tragic stories from some of these. I say, you can feel free to ignore this, but I just think it's important to get it out there, because soon I'm emigrating, I won't be here to do it. Beckett, interesting man, Beckett. Ooh, let me have a look. That was the first one. I do believe Woodley, if you can see that, JT Woodley, Royal Engineers, 11th of February 1940. I believe he's the first one buried in this new designated bit of the cemetery. Anyway, aircraftman second class GW Beckett, wireless operator air gunner, Royal Air Force, 9th of April 1941, age 92. Tragic story about Beckett. He was on leave and he was in a building, and somebody come in and said, oh, the hospital's been hit, we need help. Beckett, age 19, yep, I'll help you, rushed out to help, trying to evacuate people from the hospital. There's a partial collapse in the hospital. He went from rescuer to rescuee, actually died of his injuries, saving people in that hospital. Such a tragic story. I suppose there's loads of those around. So this tells you a little bit about the cemetery. So let me look. First burial in New Wargraves plot. I'm sure that's one I've just said, February 1940. Let's have a look. Yeah, 11th February 1940. This is Woodley, the first man to be buried in this bit. Look at that, amazing. So I'm just going to show you a few more while I'm here. I know the story of a few. I'm not going to bore you. If you don't want to watch it, I fully understand. I mean, I've been waffling now for 38 minutes. Royal Engineers, Simpson, Evans. Right, there's some here. These guys here all died together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These were a crew of a Lancaster. All died together. And in the cemetery, they're the only crew that are buried together. Literally side by side, you know, without big gaps. Side by side. So you've got Bro, Clark, Middlemass, Nichols, Noble, Sanderson, Wright. So you've got Bro was the wireless operator air gunner, Clark was navigator, Middlemass was the flight engineer, Nichols was a gunner, Noble was an air bomber, pilot, Royal Canadian Air Force, Sanderson, and Wright was an air gunner. And again, Royal Canadian. So there's 3 Canadians, Royal Air Force, so British, Royal Air Force, Royal Air Force, Royal Air Force. So mixed crew. But that's their story basically. They all died together. I mean, you've got to look at the ages. Pilot, 28, old, quite old really. Look at this. Flight engineer was 19, air gunner was 19, navigator was 28, quite old for that. So quite a mixed crew, quite different ages. Wright was 20, Bro was 22. Just going to do you another quick. So there's quite a few in here. I do know the story of a few of these. That's Wellborn, here we go, of Canada, Canadian pilot, DFC, Distinguished Flying Cross, age 27. Let me find some more. There's a lady called Anastasia. So these are now your Polish ones. There's a lady called Anastasia. Sad story, her died in 1946. Where's she gone? Here we go. Anastasia Kalinska. I've not pronounced that right. 6th of July 1946, age 26. This lady, bless her, married. A bit of infidelity, I don't know which way. Husband killed her. She's buried here. He's buried elsewhere. And that's her story. She's the only lady that's actually buried in here. Here we go. DSO Solinsky, 300 Squadron. DSO DFC. Age 37. He's quite old. I'm just going to find you Curzon Wood if I can. And I think it's Oddbert. Let me just find you. I'll tell you about some of these guys as well in a minute. 8th of January 1946. Right, I'm going to tell you about some of these. Just bear with me because I've got so many names and they're all weird going around my head. Dabrowski. There's a few Dabrowskis in here. One of them at the grave. I put a candle on the grave every year for somebody who can't be here. I'm going to find. Here we go. Oddbert, Group Captain, age 39, 18th of July 1943. He died in a plane crash. And I don't know if he didn't die. Just bear with me a second. He did die. I think he died along with Lieutenant Thompson. I do believe so. And basically, he's the highest ranking officer buried in here. There's only one down from Air Commodore. They went up in an aircraft, a load of them, testing it, and it went wrong. Big loads of witnesses, and basically, poor bloke died, and there he is. It says his life, a fragrant memory, his absence, silent grief. I'm going to show you. I love this name. I just love that name. Anyway, I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's just an unusual name. Let me find. Here you go. Cousin Wood, Air Training Corps, 29th of July 1942, age 16. That's that I was telling you about. Who went on a flight, test flight with another cadet, and plane crashed. He died. He's buried here. The other cadet's buried elsewhere. So you can see that is actually Air Training Corps. So that's his story. There's another one here who is a. Where's he gone? Hume. God, I sound like I've not got my teeth in. Okay, 20th September 1941. Bit of a tragic story, this one. Hume. Royal Engineers. Walking home from the cinema with his wife in the war. Blackout, obviously, no one could see anything. Actually got run over and killed. The guy that ran over and killed him was quite a renowned and decorated bomb disposal expert. The bomb disposal expert obviously didn't do it deliberately, but killed Hume, who's now buried here. The bomb disposal expert actually survived the war. So that's his story. I'm going to try and find a few more for you while I'm here. You must bear with me because I'm just like, how these work, these graves, they work date from this way to that way. So they're 1940 and these will be later on. I'm going to try and show you. I'm going to try and find this one. Give me 1 second. That's the one. I'm sure it's 18th of July 1941. Yeah, it is. So there's a crew here. These were Wellington. So you've got Podzimski. Not pronounced that right. I know I haven't. I'm sorry. Please forgive me for my Polish. These normally they're buried like the Lancaster crew there, buried side by side. These guys are buried in a row because the way they died, they're just buried in a row. Zanijuski, age 25. Okay, I'm just gonna go this way around because there's bushes and stuff. Okay, this one, Platt, 18th of July 1941, age 33. 18th of July 1941, Motorvix, I want to say. And is that it? Sure, there's another one. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm getting a bit. Let me find the name. I'll know the name. No, it's this one. Please forgive me. 13th of January 42. Nah, that rings a bell. You got Biganski. Yeah, sorry. Biganski, Sadowski, Polski. Can't pronounce them. I'm sorry. And the one behind is. Can't read that. Basically, they're in a row, okay, and these guys were all in on a training mission, and they crashed in the North Yorkshire moors. Now, I had a friend who actually went to the crash site. What he does, he gets bits of wreckage. Some people agree with it, some don't. Gets bits of wreckage and made like a memorial, okay, and he'd been trying to find the grave for years, and I actually found it and I brought him here, and he'd been waiting 50 years to visit the grave of these guys. So that's their story. They died in North Yorkshire. I'll just show you a few more while I'm here. There's a George Medal recipient here who's a Polish bloke. Here we go. Felix Go. I've not pronounced that right. I must apologise if you're Polish. You're thinking he can't talk. I cannot pronounce it. It's all a bit confusing. That's why I tend to give them nicknames. GM. George Medal. Interesting story, this man. Saw a plane crash on an airfield. Flares exploding. Ammunition exploding. In a fireball. Rushed in to try and save the crew. The rear gunner was trapped. He smashed the perspex. Sorry about them blokes being noisy. He smashed the perspex and dragged the rear gunner out of the perspex. I mean, perspex is quite thick as well. Dragged him out to try and save him. The rear gunner actually died, but for his valour, he was awarded the George Medal. So I'll show you a few more while I'm here. There's another one here. Duncan, Australian Air Force. See, it's Australian, Canadian, another Australian. Where is... I did a H.H. Lloyd, here we go. H.H. Lloyd, quite an interesting one, H.H. Lloyd. He was in Lancaster, took off from a nearby airfield, RF Winthorpe, which is where Newark Museum now is, actually, and Newark Showground and various other things. Basically, he took off, they got into trouble, they tried to land in like a field between two houses. At night, they got it wrong, the wing of the Lancaster caught the house. The aircraft flung 180 degrees, slammed the rear gunner, H.H. Lloyd, into the ground in his turret. Killed him. He was the sole victim, if you like. Don't know if victim is the right word. Casualty. He was the sole casualty of that crash. Died at age 29. Very good hockey player by all accounts. And when you go to the house, I've been to the house, and the side of the wall on the gable end, there are still the score marks where the Lancaster actually hit the wall and gouged a chunk out of it and left black paint, and they're still there to this day. But that's his Lloyd. I came here and put a photo of him on the anniversary on the 1st of February. I spent all day in the SAS cemetery in Hereford, came back here and lit a candle for him and had a photo and everything, just so people sort of remembered. So that's his story. A couple of these died at local RF Boulderton. RF Boulderton is quite an interesting one. RF Boulderton is where Operation Market Garden took off from. It's where Sir Frank Whittle, don't forget there's a helicopter, I think that's a police helicopter. Frank Whittle tested the jet engine. What he did, he had not a lot of people know this. Sound like Michael Caine. Not a lot of people know that. He tested the jet engine, okay, in a Wellington. What he did, he took the rear turret out, put an engine in the back, sticking out the rear turret, took off with the props, turned the props off, engine was running, people were seeing it, apparently arminicers were seeing it, Wellington, making a funny noise with no props turning. That's because Frank Whittle was testing the jet engine. So that's a bit of history for you. It's also where Leonard Cheshire converted to the Lancaster. There's a little bit of that left, not a lot now. It's all got like dug up and stuff, but there's a little bit of the entrance. The main entrance is still there. If you like, here's another one. Look at this, DFC DFM, age 29. So yeah, and there is a little bit of tarmac where the cross section of the runway was. RF Balderton Research Group actually got that. They're trying to find somewhere to put it because a company took over, turned it into a gravel pit, but they saved that bit. I'm trying to find these 8th of July. There's a really interesting one here. Just give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. So this is quite an interesting one because obviously with these graves, you think this is the 5th of August. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to find the date. So with these graves, obviously everyone's buried. Like, you think, here's a headstone. Here's one. Here's Dabrowski, who I light a candle for one of their family. Just trying to find these. There's a load together. So yeah, with these graves, you think obviously there's the grave, there's your casket, coffin, whatever you call it. Same there, same there. Not on this one. Not on this one. 18th of September. I'm sure it's 18th of September. It's 8th of July. It's the July. No, it's July. Here we go. Sorry, bear with me. So these ones, 8th of July 44, 8th of July 44, 8th of July 44, 8th of July 44. Okay. And then there's ones behind that. 8th of July. 8th of July. 8th of July. 8th of July. Okay. And they go back. So there. There's loads of these. This is different. Sorry, I divert. This is like a totally different stone to the rest. So that's 8th of July. That's 8th of July. 8th of July. There's a row. There's about, I don't know, 30, 35. And basically, these guys all died together. They're not buried here. So you haven't got one coffin here, one here. They're actually buried this way along. Okay, so where you read that name isn't where that person is. They're buried in a row this way, and they've just put in like one big pit, if you like, and they've just put all the headstones up like that, obviously, to keep it within keeping. But that is the story behind those. I'm just going to show you a few more while I'm here. I mean, I've been waffling for 45 minutes, and it's an interesting one. This one here. So that there, where them flowers are, don't look a lot, does it, that? Little plot. Tell a little bit about that. The guy there was born in 1894, died in 1977. His wife died in 1953 when his son was 9, 10. One of his sons was 9 or 10, okay? He was in the Sherwood Foresters, World War One, sniper. Quite a good one. The man in that grave got shot 7 times, took 7 bullets. Trying to rescue someone from no man's land. Survived it, died aged 80 something, early 80s, 81, 82, in 1977. Why do I know that story? Because his son, that was 8 or 9 when he died, is my dad. So that is all that shows my granddad, who was awarded the military medal and took 7 bullets for saving someone from no man's land. Mad, isn't it? That's all there is to show for it. There we go. So that's my granddad, bless him. I remember him just, not very well, but I do remember them noisy people are going, so I'm going to have a quick wander across here. But yeah, so that's the polished water. It's really well kept. Look at that. I love it. It's all in perfect lines and stuff like that. It's really well kept. I'm just going to quickly go around here. So these are ones that I call my boys, okay? Something like 66 men here, 67, something like that. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, sorry. I meant to just brush the things away. So, Frank Burner, 1st Armoured Division Squadron B. Okay, I'll tell you a bit about some of these. It's a shame because this one you can hardly see. There's going to be somebody buried here. Somebody buried here. We did an audit, and there's a few of them. We didn't know about this one. Is new. Okay, now he's one of 2, but there's 2 new ones. I can't remember which one's which, right? VM, right? Polish Military Victoria Cross, buried with his wife, right? This guy is one of 2. Either he's the guy who did an emergency landing on an airfield, thinking it was in the UK, landed on a Luftwaffe airfield. Unlucky. Or he's the guy that lost his hand as a tank commander and carried on regardless, with no hand. And basically he died, and he didn't have any relatives. They're going to give him a pauper's burial. And what happened was he kind of slipped through the net. They're going to give him a pauper's burial. And then some social worker, I'm not a big fan, went through his belongings before he was buried, found a load of medals. So, let's have a look. Did a bit of research, found out he was a bit of a war hero, managed to find some money to have him buried here rather than just an unmarked pauper's grave. And then they raised funds for this gravestone. So that's his story. But some of these are really interesting people. This is called the Alley of Merit in Poland. That's what it's referred to as for various reasons. I mean, here we go. Alexander Malki. I know that's not right. Sorry if you're Polish. Right, 29th of December 15 to 18th of January 1994. VM KW3 MM DFM. VM Virtuti Militari. Polish equivalent to the Victoria Cross. Okay, I'll just say that again. Polish equivalent to the Victoria Cross. KW3. I think that's 3 crosses of valour. 3 Polish crosses of valour. Okay. MM Military Medal. DFM Distinguished Flying Medal. This man must have been absolutely incredible, man. There's loads of these. There's another KW there, look. Polish Medal of Valour. Another one here, Lieutenant somebody or other. RAF 1948 to 1969, Polish Air Force from 1940 to 1959. Okay. There's loads of these. Another one, look, VM and 3 Polish Crosses of Valour. Another one, Flight Lieutenant RAF. Okay. Loads and loads of interesting people. Here we go. Bolslav Nowicki, I think it's pronounced. I did try and Google this earlier because I'm a Polish terrible. Maria Nowicki, used to be called Kopinska. AK. Can you see that? Home Army. That lady, Polish Resistance. Polish Resistance. And I'm assuming this is their child, son or daughter, not sure which. Don't know what that means. But yeah, and VM, okay, KW, amazing man, must have been absolutely amazing, okay. There's a few like that. There's a lot of these are VMs and stuff like that. Here you go, VM, KW, Marianne Skubala, Peter Sheridan, US Soldiers Medal, as well, Squadron Leader, Royal Air Force. Some of these are people, their stories are fascinating. Another, look at that, VM, KW. Yeah, there's so many really interesting ones. VM, KW, so that's basically Polish equivalent to Victoria Cross again. Some of these are really interesting. I call this guy Gabby because I can't pronounce. Look what he's got. Look at that. VM, 4 Polish Crosses of Valour, DSO and a bar, DFC. Look at that. I'll just pause that just for a second, just so you can screenshot that. Not screenshot that, but pause it and have a look, okay? So that was a little bit about him. You can't really read that, it's a real shame. These were all neglected about 3 or 4 years ago, something like that, probably not even that long ago. These were neglected, these were all black, they were absolutely filthy, you couldn't see them because they're under the trees. Me and a friend, basically, we kind of adopted him. So I'm normally here. I'll just read it. It says, an infantry officer who transferred to air service in 1934, a fighter pilot in the 1st Air Regiment in Warsaw. In September 1939, he was the intelligence officer of a fighter squadron. On the 1st September, he shared a shooting down of Heinkel 111, the 1st Polish fighter section. The 1st German aircraft down near Warsaw. Evacuated to France in June 1940, he led the Polish fighter section. So with 607 Squadron RAF, 303 Squadron. Whoa. If you know anything about 303, they were the legends, absolute legends. Shot down more enemy aircraft than anybody else. And then with 316 Squadron, which he commanded in 1941-42, he then led the 2nd, then 1st Polish Wings. During the Normandy landings in June 44, he commanded the Polish number 18 Polish sector, which included 5 Polish, 2 British, 1 Belgian and 1 New Zealand fighter squadron. In 46 he was station commander at RAF Coleshill. After the war he settled in England. He was the chairman of the Polish Air Force Association for many years and died October 83. Amazing, man. Amazing. 303 squadron. Wow. Brutus. I pronounce that Zinowski, but I know it's not. Just going to put that on there just for a second, so you can read that. Famous double agent. There's look at that, tens of thousands of people alive because of that man there. This one here, VM, obviously, he saved 700 blokes from Dunkirk. So I'm just going back on this one again. So VM, KW, OBE. So Polish Grunt to Victoria Cross called Brutus. Look at that, amazing man, absolutely amazing man. Another one of my boys. Should never have forgotten. This one here, VM, which is Polish Grunt to the VC, KW. So it's got, sorry, 4 of them. OBE. I think my battery's run out, so I'm going to leave that there for a second. Part of his ashes were laid to rest here, others are laid to rest elsewhere. General Manager of Polish Airlines, last President of the International Air Transport Association before World War II. During the war he served in the exiled Polish Air Force and was commander of 300 Bomber Squadron. Station Commander at RAF Lindholm, Polish Liaison Officer at Bomber Command HQ and Transport Command HQ. He worked as an expert in the UN International Civil Aviation Organisations and died 11th of June 86 in Manchester by the CUSA. According to his last will, part of his ashes were laid to rest in Newark Cemetery. They're laid in 4 places. I do believe his ashes are laid in 4 separate places. And this is one of them. These are all incredible, men, honestly. I could be here all day. There we go. Each duty done, they rest in peace. Joseph Warchal, KW, Polish Cross of Valor, 1916 to 2012. Pilot, 308 Squadron, RF Northolt. What's that one? I've sent number 16 Polish Flying Training School, RF Newton. A man genuine at heart, and beloved wife, who's also buried with him. He died 2012, she died 2014. Oh, it's amazing. These people, the stories these guys have got. And until 3 or 4 years ago when we started cleaning these, you could not see these, honestly. These were covered, they were black, they were covered in moss. You didn't know these were here, and we started cleaning one and thought, whoa, wait a minute. And we just kept going. I'll just show you another one behind Brutus. So obviously I mentioned earlier 2 guys. One was the tank commander, the other one that landed on the Luftwaffe airfield. This is the other one. I'm sorry, I'm trying to see it. I don't think if you can read that. These two got 2 Polish Crosses of Valor and the MC. I'm struggling to read that now, the light's not very good. But yeah, so these are all, I call these my boys because I look after these. These are all my boys and girls. I'll look after these. I'm here as often as I can. You can tell I haven't been here for a long time. I've got twins. They're 9 months old. Basically since the twins came along, and I've got a 4-year-old, I've just not had time. Before I was here like every weekend. Another one, VM, KW. I'm sure that means it's got 4 of them. Polish Crosses of Valor. Vaclav Schmidt, I'm going to say, British Empire Medal. VM, KW, united with his dear wife, Vera Nancy. He died in 93. She died in 2013. Here's another one that's a VM and KW. Another one VM and KW. Another KW. VM and KW. Flying officer at Royal Air Force. Just show you some more of these. Here's another one. VM KW, 3 of. VM KW. VM KW, 3 of. Okay. KW again. So those basically, I'm going to get locked in the cemetery. I'm forever getting locked in the cemetery. Security guards used to it. So basically, that's a quick tour of the cemetery. There's loads more to see, I just haven't got time. I probably know about 100 people buried here, I would think. Not just the Polish War bit, obviously I don't know them, I know their stories, but physically knew probably 100 people that are buried in the rest of it. I don't know if we've got locked in, I've probably got locked in. Can I have a quick look? But yeah, so these are my boys. Sorry it's been like over an hour, hasn't it? Hope you enjoyed it. Waffles, but you know, these guys, certainly these guys, these deserve to be remembered. 397 poles here, look at that. The Polish ones are the pointy ones. Obviously the Commonwealth War ones are the flatter ones, if you like. But there we go. So that's just a really quick one. I mean, I could talk all day, honestly. I could talk for England about some of these boys in here. I've just touched the surface, really. But that's just a quick tour. That's why I have a fascination with cemeteries, because the stories of the men that are here are just incredible. You can see here there's like war ones everywhere, you know, like Commonwealth War graves, just random everywhere. But then there's some, when you look around here, there's father and son that are buried together. The dad was a Lancaster crewman in the war, and then his son died not that many years ago. His son was in the Air Force, and they're buried together. I don't know the story of his son. I know someone that did tell me about it, but can't remember. I'm getting old. I've got loads going around my head. But yeah, so that's their story. There's loads in here. So you've got them brothers that are the twins, that are the Mosquito crew that are buried together. You've got the two brothers that died very close together, like a year apart, almost to the day. Different regiments, unusual, I think. But yeah, you've got loads here. I could be here all day, because I'm always finding out. Every time I come here, I'm finding out more and more and more. So if you're ever from Newark or in Newark, if you ever want to come to Newark for whatever reason, it's actually not a bad town, I'll be honest with you. It's starting to rain now. Not a bad town. We've got a historic castle, all to do with the English Civil War. It's where King John died in the war. I've got the war on my head. King John died in the castle, and then it's also where Charles I was, and he got captured in Newark, just outside Newark. He stayed in Newark, and he got captured. And if you stand in the castle, look out, the field he got captured in is only about 100, 200 yards from the castle. And basically what they did, they caught him, took him away. King Charles I chopped his head off, but he was actually caught in Newark. Dick Turpin apparently used to come through on his way from London to York. It's basically up straight off the A1. So they've got quite a lot of history in Newark, a lot to do with the Civil War. In 1487, there was a battle called the Battle of East Stoke. I'm not into my older history, I'm into World War II history. Battle of East Stoke, it's the 500th anniversary in 1987, okay? And a lot of men got killed, right? I mean, just look at these, sorry I'm waffling. Look how impressive some of these are, look at that. 1918. Look at that, it's amazing, isn't it? It stayed that good all this time. Yeah, so basically, there's a load of history, like local history around here, all to do with Civil War, big Civil War place. They had a thing called the King's Sconce, a thing called the Queen's Sconce, and there's a place there called Red Gutter, where a load of, I don't know if it's Cavaliers and Rhinelands, I'm not really into history. And what happened was they all got chased into this valley. There's 5,000 got killed in this valley, and they call it Red Gutter. It's at East Stoke, about 4 miles away from here. And when you go to East Stoke, you can still actually look at the soil, and the soil is red. Now the rumour is the soil is red because of all the blood, because it was just swimming in blood. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. It might just be soil, some sort of soil, I don't know. But yeah, so and what they did, it's basically in like a horseshoe shape. So when they